Three world leaders, one room, and a handshake that just changed everything. But wait, this isn't just a handshake. It's about water, power, and survival. And if you think this is just another African story, think again. Because what just happened in Turkey could either prevent a war or start one. Let me tell you a story that shows you exactly how high the stakes are. Imagine you are an Ethiopian farmer. Your crops are dying because you don't have electricity for irrigation. Meanwhile, 800 kilometers away in Egypt, someone's turning on their air conditioning without a second thought. That's the reality of 65 million Ethiopians without power. Ethiopia's population is made up of about 126 million people. About 65 million people of this population don't have access to electricity. But when Ethiopia tried to solve this problem, well, that's when things got interesting. In the next few minutes, I will reveal why Egypt threatened war over a dam, how Somalia became the unexpected kingmaker. I will also reveal Turkey's masterful diplomatic move that no one saw coming, and most importantly, what happens next. But first, let me take you to a moment that changed everything. 2011, Ethiopia announces a 4.6 billion mega dam project. Simple, right? Wrong. Because this isn't just about a dam. It's about centuries of power control, survival, and dominance. Here's what most people miss. Egypt has controlled the Nile for over 90 years based on two agreements: the 1929 Colonial Treaty, the 1959 agreement between Egypt and Sudan. But here's the crazy part. Ethiopia, which provides 85% of the Nile's water, wasn't even invited to sign these agreements. This reminds me of the Berlin Conference during the Scramble of Africa, where decisions were taken to divide Africa without the presence of any African. Imagine this: you own a spring that provides water to your entire neighborhood, but your neighbors made an agreement 90 years ago that you can't use your own water. Sounds absurd, right? Let me show you what this means in real numbers. For Ethiopia, about 65 million people don't have access to electricity, but then they have a potential to generate up to 6,450 megawatts of electricity, which is really huge. These amounts can be sufficient for the whole country, and some of it can even be exported. The economic growth potential for Ethiopia is about 7 to 10%. Now, just to make it into context so that we understand, the fastest growing economy in Europe is just about 5%. But then Ethiopia is about 7 to 10%, so a lot is at stake here. This is a country that can actually grow very, very fast if it has access to this electricity. And I'm not making these figures up. This is according to Statista. Now, for Egypt, 90% of Egypt depends on the Nile water. We heard in history that no Nile, no Egypt. This therefore means that 100 million people in Egypt are at risk. Thousands of years of civilization built around one river. But here is where it gets interesting. When Ethiopia started filling the dam in 2020, Donald Trump sent a message that sends shockwaves across Africa. They will end up blowing up that dam. And I say it loud and clear. What would you do if you were Ethiopia's leader in that moment? Think about it. Your country needs power, but the world's biggest superpower just threatened your project. Now, here is what nobody's talking about. Could this dam actually help Egypt in the long run? It could help Egypt to regulate water flow. It could also help to reduce evaporation. It could also help to control silts that are often a very big problem to Egypt. This dam isn't just big, it is a monster. It is 1.8 kilometers long, 145 meters high. The reservoir size of this dam is 74 billion cubic meters. But all these numbers, they hide the real story. Now here is where the story takes an unexpected turn. January 2024, Somalia drops a diplomatic bomb that nobody saw coming. They threatened to kick out Ethiopian peacekeepers and replace them with Egyptian forces. Think about that for a second. The same Egyptian forces that once threatened to blow up Ethiopia's dam. Now let me show you why this is a genius move. Somalia's power play controls 3,300 kilometers of strategic coastline. It houses key shipping routes. It holds Ethiopia's access to the sea hostage. Now Ethiopia's dilemma, it is a landlocked nation with 126 million people. It desperately needs port access. For Ethiopia, about $500 million daily trade depends on sea access. But here is where it gets interesting. Ethiopia had an ace up its sleeve: Somaliland. On the 1st of January 2024, Ethiopia signs a deal with Somaliland. It gets 20 kilometers of coastline. It promises to consider recognizing Somaliland. Now let me ask you this: what would you do if you were Somalia's president? Your breakaway region is making deals with your powerful neighbor, and Egypt is offering military support to you. The stakes couldn't be higher as regional stability hangs by a thread. Egyptian warships linger around Somali waters. Ethiopian troops on high alert. And just when everyone thought this will explode into conflict, Turkey makes a move that changes everything. Now with Trump back in the White House, everything we have just discussed gets more complicated. Here's why. Remember his last words about the dam? They will end up blowing up that dam. And I say it loud and clear.
It's a very dangerous situation because Egypt is not going to be able to live that way. And they'll end up blowing up the dam. And I said it and I say it loud and clear. They'll blow up that dam.
But this time is different. Let me show you 3 massive changes that Trump's return brings to this power game. First, Egypt's position just got stronger. And here's why. Trump's known close relationship with President Sisi, historic military aid to Egypt, which is about $1.3 billion annually. Also, Egypt plays a vital role when it comes to the Middle East stability. So think about this. What happens when your strongest ally gets their favorite US president back? Egypt's confidence is about to skyrocket. But here is where it gets even more interesting. Ethiopia isn't the same country Trump left in 2020. The dam is now 90% complete. The power generation has begun. New alliances with Turkey have been made. A new $1.3 billion Kenya-Ethiopia power corridor is operational. Trump can't just make threats anymore. The game has changed. And here is the most fascinating part. We are looking at new power blocks forming. Let me show you how the chessboard of Africa is being completely reorganized. First, we are seeing the strengthening of what I call the traditional power block. Egypt and the United States, particularly under Trump, share a deep military relationship. But here's what makes this alliance crucial. Egypt isn't just another US ally. They control the Suez Canal, one of the world's most important shipping routes. But that's not all. With Trump's return, Egypt gains something even more valuable: diplomatic cover. Think about it. When Trump previously threatened Ethiopia over the dam, he wasn't just making empty threats. He had already suspended millions in aid to Ethiopia. Now we go to Block 2, the Turkey-Ethiopia alliance. While Egypt was strengthening its traditional alliance, Ethiopia was quietly building something new. This is where Turkey's masterful diplomacy comes into play. They didn't just broker a peace deal, they created an entirely new power dynamic. Here's what makes this alliance game-changing. Turkey gets influence in the Horn of Africa. Ethiopia gets diplomatic protection. Both get strategic depth against Egypt. Imagine you are playing chess and your opponent brings in a new piece that doesn't follow the traditional rules. That's exactly what Turkey did here. But here is a third block emerging that nobody is talking about: the regional integration block. Look at what's happening to the Ethiopian-Kenyan corridor. Ethiopia and Kenya has just finished constructing a $1.3 billion hydroelectric power corridor that is able to transfer electricity both ways. When there is drought in one country, the other country automatically sends energy to the other country. That is vice versa. This isn't just about electricity. It's about African nations creating independence from outside powers. For the first time, we are seeing regional solutions for regional problems. So here's what I want you to think about. Which of these 3 blocks do you think is going to be more powerful 5 years from now? But before you answer, let me show you the wild cat that could change everything. Now, after everything we have discussed, you might be wondering, what does this mean for me? Let me break down exactly how these changes affect different groups and what you can do about it. First, for African businesses and investors, there are going to be new trade routes. Ethiopian businesses will start positioning for port access. You should also watch for new Turkish investment zones. I told you already, these things are all interconnected. We've talked about the Ethiopian-Turkish bloc. When new blocks form, they are going to have certain alliances. They are going to have certain deals between their countries, and Turkey is going to place certain investments. So this is what you have to watch out for. We're talking about reality. If you are in the region, or if you want to invest in the region, start building relationships with Turkish businesses. There are going to be reduction in tariffs because these are already blocks that are going to be solid with time. Since we're talking about regional integration here, look for opportunities in logistics and transportation. Remember, Africa Today is a business channel. So whenever we're talking about geopolitics, I'm just going to tell you the business opportunities that are more likely to pop up within the particular area. And when it comes to security, look for policy shifts under Trump's administration. Also pay attention to Egyptian military movements, the alliances Egypt is going to form around Ethiopia. Pay attention to that. If you see Egypt starts forming alliances around Ethiopia, you need to start building something in your head because you have a background of what we have been talking about right here. So the game has changed and the players are set. And in the next 6 months, we will see if Turkey's gamble pays off. If you want to stay ahead of these changes, hit the subscribe button and like the video. If you haven't liked, I don't know what you're waiting for. My name is Luis and you are watching The Strategic Lens on Africa Today. And remember, in geopolitics, today's friend might be tomorrow's rival. See you in my next video.